We're going to go ahead and pull the seat out of this, and we're going to see how close we get on the other seat. Let's get the seat out of here and see what we got. I've got my standard ratchet. Just bought this one on Amazon, I believe it was. Cost about $40. All right, but I've got my 1/2 inch 9/16. I've got a little extension. I've got a ratchet. One of those should fit it. So now the way most of these work, box over so I got a place to sit, is you have a set of bolts in the front and a set of bolts in the back. This one has a square bolt right here, so that tells me that our bolt is probably on the bottom. So we'll know here in a minute. So first things first, I'm going to see if I can reach it right here, which I know I can, right here. So let's see what size it is. I do need a long one, or a deep socket, because ouch, it is a big bolt. Or I should say a long bolt. 9/16 or 5/8. Probably 5/8. Nope, it's a 1/2 inch. This is going to tell us how rusty this car really is. Really should have pulled all the floor mats and everything out of here before I started even doing all this junk. Alright, we're going to have to lift it up a little bit because I can't really see well under there. So yeah, it has 4 bolts underneath. Brake lines look good. Everything under here looks really, really good. I'm under here in a minute. You know, one of them's always got to give you trouble. So, put a little hardcore on it. It's a bigger ratchet. When you're jacking these up, they're unibody, so you want to make sure you grab a hold of a chunk of the frame. In this particular case, I've got a hold of the spring. Also notice there's a little bit of rust down here in the bottom here of the quarter. And what we'll do is we'll put our bolts back in. And voila, our seat is out. Now let's grab one of our replacements, take a look, see and see how we compare. So you see we've got a little bit of height difference. Now reminding you, this is up on a pedestal. So when we bring this one up on a pedestal, it's definitely going to bring the whole thing up. So before we do anything, I do want to vacuum out all that garbage in there. And then I'll set this seat in place and we'll see where we land. Also, I want to pull the mechanism off of this and see what it's going to take to modify it to fit this other seat. Oh, there goes that. That was you can tell they spilled drinks and that type of thing on there. But yeah, it's held on by 2 bolts, same as in here was. So let me get my vacuum real quick. Now because of all the garbage in here, I'm not going to use my nice Fantic. I'm going to use the Dirt Devil. I don't want to fill my nice vacuum with a bunch of garbage from me. Now, we've got a really big lift. We've got, looks to be vacuum cleaner right there, though, because we're going to hit it. Now, as you see by these brackets, we've got a little bit of height here. We could always take height out. Right now, these things are about 3.5 inches. If you go to the bottom of the bolt where it was, it's about 3 inches high here. And like I was saying, these seats are about 3 or 4 inches higher than the Pinto seat, and that was measuring from base to top. So we could always pull out of this, and that'll give us, we can cut it, weld this straight, and boom, you've got your mechanism. Depending upon whether or not we can use this mechanism. So let's move this out of the way for now. So from bolt hole to bolt hole, we're 14 inches. Bolt hole to bolt hole here, we are 11 inches. So we are going to have to adapt something to this, or just add on to it. We'll see. We'll kind of play it by ear, because I'd like to retain the seat slides that it's already got. These would seem to be a lot more cumbersome, a lot less cumbersome than these. So let's set it in place and see how it looks. So, judging from what I'm seeing, we have plenty of room to bring it up. So we could use those brackets. All I would have to do is pull the brackets off, drill new holes in them for this seat, and we can move it back and forth on those rails. So definitely a way to go. And then just use this mechanism and you won't have to worry about it. But yeah, here in the front we've got it's way down, so there's way more room than was there. Width-wise, it's almost spot on. And when I measured the seat of this one and the seat of the Pinto one, they were dang near the same. So this is definitely a nice plus. We take all of our seat bolts, garbage tray. Here got a little tray. The light switch is MIA. Oops, turn them on. So it looks like we've got a nice thick piece here. I don't know what size it is, but it looks adequate enough for the base of the seat. It doesn't have a lot of bend into it, and especially with the Okay, I'm back at it again. So you saw my struggles. I did go ahead and make the driver's seat one the hard way, and then this morning I'm sitting there thinking as I'm over at the metal market picking up a piece of steel, I forgot the basic way to make and design my seat bracket, and that's CAD, cardboard aided design. So I need a piece of cardboard to outline and make my bracket. So let me show you how that's done. So I know I need a piece that's 15 inches long, so let's see if I've got it on this piece of cardboard. And that's 14, it's too short. I believe, let me double check and I'll be right back. I need to check my measurement of length over here. Okay, check it over there. I do need a piece that's 15, so this one won't work. I was going to put on my electronic stuff in this one, my junk for outlets and stuff, so it's a good thing. I'll keep this box. Let me grab another box. So we've got this one. So let's check our measurement. We need 4 inches wide at minimum, but we've got to have at least, this is 19, this will work perfect. So let me get the first instrument we need for our CAD design. razor knife. This is a very thick piece of cardboard. Normally you don't want one this thick, but then you also want a good blade. Let's see what I've got over here for a good blade. Grab the old makes quick work out of it. This is just for our basic, I guess you'd call our basic outline design. Throw this box over here out of our way. The next tool that we need for our CAD design, scissors. So I've got my piece here for a piece of metal. It's a 16 gauge hunk of steel, so it's going to be strong enough to support the brackets and the seat and everything. This particular one I picked up over at the Metal Mart. Cost me about $17 to have it all set, cut, and ready to go. This particular one's 18 by 4. I only needed 16 by 4. And the first thing you want to do on your CAD design is write out your sizes. Sorry about that. Got called away for a little bit. Alright, so now we want to get 1 inch on both sides of our seat. So let me go grab that measurement. Matter of fact, I'll take you with me. So once you've got your CAD, your computer-aided design, you want to go start taking some measurements. First, we're going to want the measurement of this. This is going to be, we know that it's 4 inches wide. That I do know for sure. Since I found my tape measure, I'll mark that. So I may have put it. Just added a minute ago. You know how that works. Set something down and it's gone forever. Oh, right there. I knew that. So we're going to go to the square side of this. We're going to measure 4 inches over. So we got this side. We're going to go 4 inches. And up here we'll get 4 inches. Let's take our straight edge, which just happens to be our hunk of metal we bought today, and we mark it. We really don't need to worry about this over here. We can actually just run it on here. So let's go over and get some measurements off of our replacement seat. So let's go. Our main goal is this seat width-wise and length-wise are a little bit different. This one is as far as the length goes, this is our hole for all intents and purposes. So just taking a little bit out of the end of this one and the end of this one, we can actually have enough adjustment to move it back and forth to get this one to line up just fine. So this is fine for that. The only thing we have over here is because of the distance this way, we've got a wider gap on this seat than we do on the other. So the best way to measure is go center to center on the holes, and that'll kind of give you your width. In this particular case, it is 13 7/8. So we're going to call it 14. So on our cardboard design, we want 13 7/8. And we know that that's our new seat. So I'm going to write on there new seat. Okay. And then we got to get our distance. We want to add about 1 inch all the way around on this, and that gives us a nice secure point. So center to center here, we're at 13 1/8. So we want to add 2 to that and get 15 1/8. So we got by 15 1/8. So we know that our dimensions are 13 7/8 by 15 1/8. we need to move this seat over, so we want to go over to the other seat and figure out how much we need to move over. Matter of fact, I'll bring that one over here. So now we can see that there's definitely a narrower distance on this one than there is on this. Like I said, on this one we came up with 15 and 7/8 across. Let's double check it, make sure we got it right. Again, get this out of the way so I can measure a little bit easier. That doesn't belong there. Put that up there, just like so. Okay, so again, the distance between these two, center to center, is the 13 and 7/8. On this side, our center to center is 10 and 7/8. So we've got a 3-inch difference between the two of them. So that means we have to move this one over 3 inches to get it to match this one. So that means we're going to need a 4-inch piece of metal. That'll give us about a 1/2 inch on each side. And as you can see, I've already marked it out at 3 inches. So this is where that piece is going to end up being. So we're going to be just like this. And because we're 4 inches, we're right on the edge of that piece. The only piece I could find that we already had. So we're going to have to deal with it. So what we want to do first is we want to trim this down to the 15 and 7/8 that we need, 15 and 1/8 this way that we need. And again, double check your measurement one more time, make sure that we're right. Center here to center here. I'm sorry, it's 13 and 7/8. Yeah. No, this one's 13 and 1/4. I need this way. So this way we want to add about 1 inch to both sides of it. So if we go, yeah, it was 13 and 1/4 actually. So we want 15 and 1/4, not 15 and 1/8. So I would just make it simple and we'll go 15 and 1/2 this way. And that makes it easy. Now the real trick is the fact that this thing is really narrow. You see, it's going to just barely catch each one of these. I could easily weld the piece of metal on there and weld the bolts, which is an alternative. You can tack weld it here, or weld this side, grind these flat, and weld this side, and then have this bolt. Since this part is the one that's removable in the car, you could just basically weld the piece of steel on here, but you run that chance of hurting the fabric and that type of thing. So we'll leave that as a last resort, kind of go with what we have. But that kind of gives us an idea of how to lay out our piece of paper. Now the next trick is going to be, once we get this cut, we don't have to cut it, but once we get this cut, we're going to come back and we're going to make sure that we've got our goals lined up. So give me 1 second and I'll go cut this and I'll come right back. There, and we're going to cut this to 4 inches. I probably should have gone 4.5 or 5 inches, but again, this is a pretty heavy duty steel, so we're going to be okay with 1/2 inch at each side. These bolts are much smaller than we think. So now we've got our basic piece cut out here. And then we want to get our distance on this one. Again, we're adding that 1/2 inch on each side. So where did it go? And it is okay to measure because you don't want to end up short. So I'm going to add 1 inch to this. And then I'm going to roll down to this other one. That gives me 15 inches is what I'm going to go with. So again, you could go 15 and 1/2, but 15 will work. Too much is okay, but so let's go ahead and cut that at 15. when you do these edges and everything, go ahead and curve your edges on the metal. That way you don't have a sharp object pointing at it. The other side, I am going to redo it. One of the things I've learned is with this kind of thing, you're going to learn better ways to do it. It's okay to redo it the better way. The other one is perfectly square. I ended up also getting mega steel splinters in my hand because I forgot to wear gloves. Wear your gloves when you're working with metal. So now it's going to cut our 15-inch. So we've got that. Now we need to get our bolt holes lined up. So this is where it comes in real nice. Take your hammer, and you got these little bolt things. They stick out. So all you have to do is set this where you want it. Now we cut that little piece of fabric off of there. Oh. And there's a piece of steel in here, so need a little bit more than just a pair of scissors to cut it. There we go. Let's set that to the side. Now let's get our hammer from the ground. So we're going to take our piece of CAD, and we want to be about a half an inch here. And again, add that inch to the top. So easiest way to do that is measure 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom. That way you know where you're at. So we got 1 inch, and then down here at the bottom, 1 inch. That kind of gives us a nice guide to where to line up our holes. And take your hammer, set your piece in place. There's your 1 inch mark, 1 inch, move her over a little bit, and then get a nice little mark for your deck. So all we need to do is punch a hole in that, and then we'll be able to put our bolt in, and we'll line up the other one. Same thing on that. Then we'll move over here, measure across, and do the same thing on this side. Now you'll notice how much seat there is from here over. And then remember that this is towards the center console. This is the front. This is towards the driver here, and then this is towards the outside. So that kind of gives you an idea of how everything's laid out. So when we do the same thing here, this is basically laid down the same way. Front of the seat, side, side. Just the way it's going to sit in the car. I think. No, actually that's backwards. This goes to the inside. So your narrow side goes to the inside. This is your outside. So I was thinking backwards. So this is the inside. So again, this is going to be the inside because the whole thing's going to flip and sit right in the passenger side. So let me go punch a hole in this real quick, and we'll come back to do the other one. I'll also grab a little bolt that I can use for here. Now we've got hole number 1 in there. We may be a little bit too close to be able to reach all the way. That gives us our basic design right there. We'll just take do the same thing here. We're over. Take our hammer. Punch our hole. Punch our hole, but make our mark. And you'll see yesterday I was way overthinking this whole thing. Here's our mark for the next one, so let me go drill that real quick. Now we know the distance here is almost identical to the distance here. So that makes the second part of this really easy. Here's my one bolt, there's my other. So again, we're just going to put our bolts in to make sure we're in the right place. Perfect there. And then you might want to slot these too. It'll make it a little bit easier. You'll have a little bit of adjustment as needed. It just kind of depends on what you're up to. I am going to slot them. There's no doubt about it. So there we've got, and if you look, it hits our line almost perfectly. Now, the kicker to this is you got to get that distance from A to C or A to B over here. let's put that up there out of the way. And again, it's narrower here, so center to center over here is going to be over the top. Right there, it's going to be 10 7/8. And then our distance here is going to be considerably less. So we want to measure 10 7/8 from this side over here to this side. And we are way, way off. We're way over here. This is not going to be work. It's got to be wider than that. So we can use this particular piece. It's not as, a little bit more flexible, but again, like I was saying, we could even weld this in place. Kind of the hard way to do it, but it is what it is, kind of thing. So we could also even weld the bracket on, the main bracket that holds this on, but we don't want to do that either. This 4 inches. Yes, this is too small. It's not going to work. So this piece that I picked up, clearly too narrow to work here. And that's one of the cool things that you learn by using cardboard instead of metal, because we know we don't have enough distance to come over here. Now another thing we can do is we could drill another hole here and then basically use the back here to possibly go this direction. We could split this in two and go back and forth this way using this, and we could come to that point, cut this piece, and then on both of them, splitting this, go side to side. And then we could use this piece, and that would work well. Again, we've got enough material to do that. More than enough material to do that. So we may end up just doing that and make it easy on ourselves. That's what I'm thinking anyway. I think I'm going to just kind of leave the video off like that. I've been doing a lot on this car and probably in this thing half an hour now. So once I get this done, possibly next week's video, I'll come back on this and show you how everything laid out and how we were able to make this all work. But cardboard aided design makes it easy. You don't have to think as hard. So let's go ahead and call that a day. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.